You ever feel like your whole life is just one long routine you can't break out of? Yeah, that was me. My name's Elliot. I'm 30 years old, and I work as a technician for a small repair company. It's not glamorous, and it sure as hell isn't a dream job, but it pays most of the bills, just barely. Then there's my wife, Dora. She's 28. We've been together for 10 years, married for 5. She was my first love. Hell, my only love. Neither of us had it easy growing up. No parents to lean on, no family wealth to fall back on. Everything we built from scratch. Our life wasn't fancy, but it was stable. Or at least, that's what I thought. Then, a few months ago, things started to shift. Dora was different. She worked late more often than usual, coming home exhausted. I asked her about it once. Everything okay? You've been working late a lot. She flashed me a practiced smile, the kind that didn't quite reach her eyes. Yeah, babe. Work's just crazy. There's a promotion on the line, and I need to show my boss I'm serious. At first, it made sense. She worked in marketing, and that world's cutthroat. But the late nights didn't stop. And that damn phone. Always on silent, always face down. I tried to joke about it one evening. What's with the phone? You got government secrets in there or something? She laughed, but it felt forced. Come on, Elliot. It's just work stuff. Clients message at all hours. You know how it is. But something wasn't right. That gut feeling, the one that creeps up on you when something's off? Yeah, I had that, but I kept pushing it down. This was Dora. We'd been through hell together. She wouldn't lie to me. One Friday, my boss let us off early. Some system update went smoother than expected. I figured it was a good chance to surprise Dora. She had the day off too, said she'd be working on a big project from home. So I stopped by the bakery, grabbed her favorite strawberry cheesecake, and headed home, thinking maybe we could actually spend some time together. But when I walked in, the place was dead silent. No laptop humming, no papers scattered on the table. Just nothing. At first, I figured maybe she'd stepped out for coffee or a walk. No big deal. But then hours passed. I called, straight to voicemail. Then I heard it. A car door slamming outside. I went to the window, and that's when I saw her. Dora stepped out of a sleek black car. And the guy behind the wheel? Tall, confident, expensive suit. The kind of guy who looked like he gave orders, not took them. They stood there for a moment, laughing, talking. Then he leaned in, and she kissed him. Not a friendly peck. No, this was different. By the time she opened the door, I was already sitting at the kitchen table, the cheesecake still untouched in its box. Hey, you're home early, she said, her voice all cheerful like nothing was wrong. She set her purse down, smiling at me. I didn't smile back. Where were you? For just a second, just one. Her face twitched, but then she recovered, smoothing it over like she always did. Oh, I just ran some errands. Needed a break from my project. I leaned forward, locking eyes with her. Errands? Huh? You run those with a guy in a black car? She blinked. The smile faltered. What? What are you talking about? I saw you, Dora. I saw you kiss him. So how about you cut the bullshit and tell me what's really going on? Elliot, come on. That's my boss, Niels. He just gave me a ride because my car wouldn't start this morning. And the kiss? It was just friendly, a thank you. I let out a sharp breath. Friendly? I repeated. You really expect me to believe that? Her voice hardened. Elliot, don't be paranoid. That word hit like a slap. I stood up, shaking my head. Let me see your phone. Dora clutched her phone like her life depended on it. Without waiting for permission, I snatched it from her hands. She gasped, reaching for it, but I was done playing nice. I opened her messages, and there it was. Text after text from Niels. Late-night plans. Flirty conversations. Even pictures, ones that made my stomach turn. How long? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She swallowed hard. A few months, it just happened, Elliot, she stammered. I didn't mean for it to. He promised me a promotion. I was trying to secure our future. I actually had to take a second to process the words coming out of her mouth. Our future? You cheated on me. For a damn job? I made a mistake, okay? I'm sorry. I was under so much pressure, and Niels, he made me feel important. I let out a bitter laugh. Important? That's all it took? Some guy in a suit feeding you compliments? She reached for me, desperation in her eyes. Elliot, please. I love you, I do. I stepped back. No, you don't get to play the I love you card after this. That night, I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, all I saw was them. That kiss. Her smile when she talked to him. The woman I had trusted, loved with everything I had thrown it all away. And for what? A shot at climbing the corporate ladder? By morning, Dora acted like nothing had happened, moving around the kitchen, making coffee, trying to force small talk. I barely grunted in response. Weeks passed, and I was still stuck in this fog. My life felt like it had shattered. Dora and I barely spoke. Just the basics. And then, one night, she finally spoke up. Elliot, we need to talk. I lost my job. I turned to face her. Wait, what? You got fired? Her face was pale. Yeah, Niels. He promised me a promotion, but instead, he threw me under the bus. Someone found out about us. I let out a low whistle. Wow. So the guy you wrecked our marriage for just tossed you aside. Real classy. She swallowed hard. Elliot, I didn't plan for this to happen. He told me everything would be fine. Yeah, well, I muttered, shaking my head. You should have known better. Then, just as I thought she was done, she spoke again. There's something else. I didn't like the way she said that. Jesus, what now? She took a deep breath. I'm pregnant. For a moment, I just stared at her, my brain refusing to process the words. You're pregnant? I repeated slowly. She nodded. Yeah. And then she dropped the real bomb. It might be Niels's. I exhaled sharply, rubbing a hand down my face. Let me get this straight, I said, voice tight. You lost your job. You're pregnant. And the father could be the same guy who just screwed you over at work. That about sum it up? She nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. I know how bad this looks, Elliot, but I need you now more than ever. We can raise the baby together. Maybe this could even bring us closer. I laughed. A hollow, humorless laugh. Closer? I repeated, shaking my head. Are you even hearing yourself? You expect me to raise a kid that might not even be mine? After everything? She wiped at her face and took a step toward me. Please, Elliot. We've been through so much together. Don't throw it all away. That set me off. You already did that when you started sleeping with your boss. It was a mistake, she cried. I was scared. I was under pressure and you chose to betray me. I cut in. That was your choice, Dora. I'm scared, Elliot. I can't do this alone. And there it was. The real reason. Fear of being alone. I knew that fear too well. It gnawed at me, clawed at my insides, because deep down, I felt it too. For years, Dora was all I had. No family. No close friends. Just her. But now, my wife was pregnant with a baby that might not even be mine. And now, she wanted me to act like we could somehow fix this? I need time to think. And then, I walked out. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay in that house another second. A few days later I was back, but barely functioning. My mind was a mess. I couldn't focus on work. I couldn't think straight. Dora, on the other hand, was still clinging to some ridiculous hope that we could patch things up with a little time and effort, like our marriage was just some broken appliance she could fix. I wasn't buying it. Then, out of nowhere, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. My gut twisted. Something about this felt wrong. I opened the door. And there he was. Niels. The man himself, standing there like he was about to sell me a damn used car. My jaw clenched. What the hell do you want? His expression was as smooth as ever. Elliot, right? He flashed a fake-ass smile and extended a hand like we were old buddies. I didn't take it. Look, I know things have been complicated, he said in that polished, sales-pitch tone. I wanted to come by and clear the air. I let out a short, bitter laugh. Oh, you mean that moment when you got my wife into bed and then kicked her out of her job? Yeah, I'd say things are a little complicated. He sighed, adjusting his expensive watch like he was just so inconvenienced by all of this. I get it. You're angry. You have every right to be. But I'm not here to cause trouble. I just want to make things right for everyone. Make things right? I stepped forward, my fists balling at my sides. You think you can just waltz in here and play peacemaker? You ruined my life. He held up his hands like he was calming a wild animal. Elliot, listen. I didn't plan for this to happen. I'm just here to find a solution. We're all adults, right? I forced my fists to unclench. Fine, I said through gritted teeth. Talk. He nodded, like he had just won some small victory. Look, I have a family of my own, he began, lowering his voice like we were negotiating some kind of shady business deal. I can't afford for this to get out. If my wife finds out, it'll destroy everything. So here's what I'm proposing. I'll provide financial support. For the baby. For Dora. We both know she's in a tough spot right now. This can be a win-win. I stared at him, barely processing the words. A win-win? I echoed, shaking my head in disbelief. Are you kidding me? No, I'm serious. He nodded like this was the most logical thing in the world. You and Dora will have financial stability. I'll stay out of your lives as much as possible. All I ask is that we keep this quiet. I could feel my temper boiling over. So let me get this straight, I said, voice tight. You want me to play happy family with my cheating wife, raise a kid that might be yours, and in return, you'll write a few checks to make yourself feel better? Before Niels could respond, Dora appeared behind me. Her eyes widened when she saw him. Niels? She gasped. What are you doing here? Niels turned to her, his polished smile still intact. Dora, I was just explaining the plan. I'm willing to help. Financially. Her face lit up like he had just promised her a golden ticket. Really? That could be a huge help. Then she turned to me. Elliot, this could make things easier for both of us. I stared at her, stunned. Was she serious right now? You actually think this is a good idea? My voice was sharp, disbelief clear. Elliot, please. She reached for my arm. It's not just about us anymore. We have to think about the baby. I shook my head, laughing bitterly. The baby, I muttered. Right. The baby that might not even be mine. Niels stepped in again, ever the smooth talker. Look, Elliot, this isn't about pride. It's about doing what's best for everyone. I turned to him, my blood burning. Oh, you're not? I took a step forward, closing the space between us. You had an affair with my wife. You got her fired. And now you show up at my door, acting like you're some kind of savior? He had the nerve to hold my gaze, still playing the part of the composed, rational man. I just want to help, he said. I let out a dry chuckle. You don't want to help, Niels. You want to clean up your mess before it ruins your life. Dora grabbed my arm. Elliot, please. Just think about it. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I saw it. She wasn't thinking about me. She wasn't thinking about us. She was thinking about security, about money, about making things easier. I had my answer. You shared personal moments with my wife, got her fired, and now you expect me to play dad while you throw some money at the problem just to keep your perfect little life intact? Niels didn't flinch. Dora, on the other hand, stepped closer, grabbing my arm. Elliot, please. Think about the future. We can move past this. We can still be a family. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. You know what? I need a break from this circus. Both of you, get out of my face. Dora opened her mouth to protest, but I shut her down with a glare. Out. Niels sighed, raising his hands in surrender. All right, I'll give you some time, but think it over, Elliot. This doesn't have to end badly. As soon as the door closed behind them, I collapsed onto the couch, burying my face in my hands. They were both trying to push me into a corner, but I wasn't about to let them control my life. I didn't have family to turn to, no close friends I could confide in. I was completely alone, just like I had always been. The thought of leaving, of divorcing Dora and walking away from this nightmare, felt impossible. How would I even afford it? My job barely covered rent and bills as it was. Starting over from scratch? It terrified me. Meanwhile, Dora was acting weirdly happy, like she didn't fully grasp the gravity of what had happened. It was infuriating. Then, one night at dinner, as we sat in awkward silence, she finally spoke up. I've been thinking, maybe this is a blessing in disguise. I nearly choked on my water. A blessing? Are you out of your mind? Hear me out, she said, her tone almost cheerful. Niels is going to help us financially. We'll be more stable than we've ever been. We can raise the baby together. Doesn't that sound good? I set my glass down slowly. Good. My voice rose. Dora, are you even listening to yourself? You're acting like this whole mess is some kind of fairy tale ending. She sighed, shaking her head like I was the one being unreasonable. You're always so focused on the negative. I'm trying to find a solution here. I slammed my hands on the table. No, you're trying to justify your betrayal. How could she be this blind? This cold? This wasn't the woman I fell in love with. All that was left was someone obsessed with money, with convenience. Someone who didn't care about right or wrong, just about finding an easy way out. I stood up from the table, unable to listen to her anymore. You don't get it. I can't live like this. I won't. And with that, I walked out of the room, my heart pounding in my chest. I needed help, someone to talk to. Because if I didn't figure this out soon, I was going to lose my damn mind. A few mornings later, I found myself wandering through the park. Elliot, my boy, you look like you've seen a ghost. A familiar voice called out. I turned and saw him. Eric, the old man who worked as a park cleaner. He was in his usual outfit, a faded green jacket and a cap that had seen better days. I saw him most mornings when I walked through the park before work. We weren't exactly friends, but we had exchanged greetings, small talk. He always seemed calm, like nothing in life could shake him. Hey, Eric, I muttered, managing a weak smile. He walked over, leaning on his broom. You all right, son? You look like the weight of the world's on your shoulders. I sighed. Honestly, I'm a mess. Eric nodded slowly, his weathered face thoughtful. Sometimes life throws storms at us we never saw coming, but you can't face it alone. Talk to me, son. What's going on? Before I knew it, the whole story came pouring out. The affair, the pregnancy, Niels's manipulative offer, my fear of being trapped. I don't know how to move forward, I whispered. I want to get out of this, but I'm broke. I can't afford a lawyer. I don't even know where to start. Eric placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. Sounds like you've been through hell, Elliot, but you're not alone in this. You're stronger than you think. I let out a humorless laugh. Yeah? Well, strength doesn't pay legal fees. Eric chuckled softly. Maybe not, but I happen to know someone who might be able to help. He paused. My nephew, Matt Mitchell. He's a lawyer. A damn good one, too. And he's got a strong sense of justice. I'm sure he'd be willing to lend a hand. And for the first time in weeks, I felt a spark of hope. I vouch for you. I blinked. Wait, you'd do that for me? I asked, surprised. Eric smiled warmly. Of course. I've seen you around for years, Elliot. You're a good man. You just need a little help to get back on your feet. A lump formed in my throat. Eric, I don't even know what to say. Don't worry about that, he said, patting my shoulder. Let me give Matt a call. We'll set up a meeting and get you the support you need. For the first time in weeks, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, I wasn't as alone in this as I thought. A few days later, Eric set everything up, and I found myself walking into a small coffee shop near the park. That's when I saw Matt Mitchell. He stood out immediately. Tall, mid-30s, sharp features, dressed in a neatly tailored navy suit. He had this calm yet commanding presence, like he was always 2 steps ahead of everyone in the room. As soon as I stepped inside, he stood and extended a hand. Elliot, right? His grip was firm, confident. I'm Matt. My Uncle Eric's told me a lot about you. I let out a nervous chuckle. Good things, I hope? Matt smirked. Only good things. He motioned for me to sit. Let's get straight to it. Eric mentioned you're dealing with a pretty rough situation. I want you to know I'm here to help, no strings attached. I exhaled. Thank you, Matt. I really appreciate it. I don't even know where to start. Matt leaned forward, serious but not intimidating. All right, here's what you need to understand. If you're serious about divorce, you need to act fast. The longer you wait, the more complicated this will get. especially with a child involved. We need to get ahead of this before it spirals out of control. I nodded, taking a deep breath. Okay, what do I need to do? Matt folded his hands on the table. First, we need proof. Proof? In cases like this, documentation is everything. If you want to challenge paternity or any future claims from your wife, you'll need evidence of the affair. Evidence like what? I asked. Texts, emails, anything that shows a pattern of infidelity. Matt explained. Ideally, we'd have a confession, but we work with what we've got. Can you get access to her phone? I hesitated for a moment, but then I thought about all the times Dora left her phone lying around, not paying attention. I nodded. Yeah, I think I can. Matt looked pleased. Good. Once you have that, we'll secure those messages and start building a case. It's not the strongest evidence, but it's better than nothing. Once we file for divorce, the court will require a paternity test. That'll give us more leverage. We spent the next hour going over the details. Matt was thorough but approachable. He made it all sound manageable, like this wasn't the end of the world, even though it sure as hell felt like it. That night, I put the plan into motion. Dora was in the shower. Her phone was charging on the kitchen counter. My heart pounded as I unlocked it, using the passcode I had memorized ages ago. I scrolled through her messages with Niels, my stomach turning with every word. I quickly downloaded the entire thread to my email, erased any sign of what I'd done, and locked the phone back. By the time Dora walked into the living room, I was sitting on the couch, pretending to watch TV. The next day, I met Matt again. I handed over the evidence. He skimmed through the messages, nodding. This isn't a slam dunk, but it's a start. Let's move forward. Later that evening, I sat Dora down. I didn't want to sugarcoat it. I filed for divorce, I said flatly. Her eyes widened in shock. What? Elliot? No. You can't be serious. I am. My voice was cold and steady. This is over, Dora. You made your choices. Now it's time to face the consequences. Tears streamed down her face. No. Please, Elliot. You don't understand. I can't do this alone. I need you. We need each other. I shook my head. We had something once, I said, my tone flat. But you destroyed it. I'm done being your backup plan. You'll have to figure things out on your own. She broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. A part of me, some stupid, old part of me, wanted to comfort her, to tell her it would be okay. But that part of me was gone, buried under all the lies, all the betrayal. I stood up, walked away. This was the beginning of the end. The legal wheels were already turning. Matt filed the divorce papers. Now, we had to wait for the paternity test. That meant waiting for the baby to be born, which was months away. But things didn't stay quiet for long. Word got back to Niels, and he wasn't thrilled that his little secret was unraveling. A few days later, Matt called me. Elliot, he said. Niels reached out. He wants to meet. Him, you, and me. I frowned. What? Why? He's panicking. I could hear the smirk in Matt's voice. Probably afraid his wife's about to find out. Good that I muttered, let him sweat. Matt chuckled. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. This meeting is a chance to put pressure on him. He's hoping to avoid legal trouble, but I've got a feeling he's not as generous as he pretends to be. Meet me at my office tomorrow. The next day, Niels arrived right on time. Dressed in his usual business casual armor, blazer, slacks, polished shoes. But his face was tense this time. No more charming smiles. He knew he was in deep. Matt and I were already seated in the conference room when he walked in. Niels sat across from us, adjusting his sleeves like he was trying to regain control of the situation. He exhaled sharply. All right, he began, his voice tight. Let's get this over with. What do you want? Matt leaned back in his chair, completely unfazed. What we want is simple. Elliot's filing for divorce. The paternity of the child is under question, which means your involvement is going to be scrutinized by the court. Elliot has no intention of raising a child that isn't his. Matt tilted his head slightly. So, Niels, here's your chance to come clean and figure out a solution that works for everyone. Niels's jaw clenched. I already told Dora I'd help financially. Matt raised an eyebrow. Oh? And what exactly does that mean? A vague promise? Because right now, we're not seeing anything concrete. Niels's patience was fraying. I was going to handle it privately, he snapped. I didn't want this to go public. Matt's smile sharpened. You mean you didn't want your wife to find out? Niels's eyes flashed. Don't play games with me, Mitchell. This isn't about my wife. Matt didn't even blink. Oh, but it is. You're scared shitless that she's going to find out you've been having an affair and might have fathered another woman's child. That's why you're here. Because you're desperate to keep this under wraps. Well, news flash. Elliot isn't going to play daddy to your kid, and he sure as hell isn't going to stay silent while you try to manipulate your way out of this. Niels's face turned red. I didn't come here to be threatened. Matt chuckled. Threatened? Oh no, Niels. This isn't a threat. This is a reality check. You thought you could buy your way out of this with empty promises, but that's not how this is going to work. If you want to avoid a full-blown scandal, you're going to need to cooperate on our terms. Niels leaned forward, pointing a finger at Matt. Listen, I don't want a legal war. I'm trying to be reasonable. Matt didn't even flinch. You want reasonable? Fine. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to meet with both Elliot and Dora. We're going to draw up a formal agreement. No more vague offers. No more stalling. Either you commit to a clear financial plan, or we take this to court. And trust me, Niels, you don't want your wife sitting in that courtroom, hearing all the dirty details. Niels's shoulders sagged. He knew he was cornered. He exhaled, defeated. Fine. Set up the meeting. Matt nodded, satisfied. Good choice. We'll be in touch. As Niels stormed out of the office, I turned to Matt. Damn, you didn't hold back. Matt grinned. When you've dealt with guys like him long enough, you learn how to push their buttons. Now we've got him where we want him. He'll try to negotiate, but he knows he can't afford to let this blow up. A few days later, the meeting. The three of us, me, Dora, and Niels, met in Matt's office. Dora sat stiffly next to me, shooting nervous glances at Niels, who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Matt, on the other hand, was the picture of calm authority, flipping through a stack of papers. All right, everyone, Matt began, leaning forward. Let's cut to the chase. We're here to settle this once and for all. I'm going to outline a plan that benefits all of you, because trust me, the alternatives are a lot worse. Niels crossed his arms. Let's hear it. Matt laid out the terms. First, he said, turning to Dora, you agree to the divorce. No stalling, no dragging this out, and no future claims against Elliot. Once the papers are signed, you two split your assets evenly, which, from what Elliot tells me, isn't much. And that's the end of it. Dora frowned but nodded reluctantly. Fine. Second, Matt continued, turning to Niels, you're going to provide financial support. Dora is going to need stability, especially with a child on the way. We both know. Niels cut him off. Wait a damn minute. What do you mean financial support? How much are we talking? Matt didn't blink. Oh, don't worry. We'll be providing a full breakdown of costs. Housing, medical expenses, child support. Since paternity is still in question, you'll be expected to pay half until the test confirms the father. And if the baby turns out to be yours, Niels's face hardened. I'm not just handing over a blank check. Matt shrugged. Then we go to court. We make this very public. Your wife finds out, your career takes a hit, and suddenly you're not just dealing with a cheating scandal. You're dealing with a paternity lawsuit. Niels's jaw tightened. He knew Matt wasn't bluffing. Dora finally spoke up, her voice quiet. Niels, this is the best option for everyone. He glared at her but didn't argue. Fine. I'll agree to financial support, for now. But I want a paternity test as soon as possible. Matt grinned. Now that we can arrange. Niels tensed up. How much are we talking about? Matt didn't miss a beat. $100,000. Half up front, half after the baby is born. In exchange, Dora won't contact you or make any demands beyond this agreement. This keeps things clean and quiet. Niels's face darkened. $100,000? His voice rose. Are you kidding me? Dora scoffed, her voice sharp. $100,000 isn't enough. Do you have any idea how expensive it is to raise a child? I need at least double that. Niels let out a bitter laugh. Oh, come on. You're delusional. I'm not made of money. Dora shot back. You're a corporate executive. Don't act like you can't afford it. Enough. Matt's voice cut through their argument like a knife. Both Dora and Niels fell silent. He leaned forward, his gaze icy. Let's get one thing straight. If this goes to court, both of you are screwed. He turned to Dora. You'll be stuck as a single mother with minimal child support. Then, to Niels. And your wife will find out everything. You'll be facing a divorce of your own, along with alimony and child support for your current kids in this new situation. So tell me, do you both really want to play that game? The room went dead silent. Niels shifted uncomfortably in his seat, while Dora stared at the floor, biting her lip. Matt pressed on. 100,000 is fair. It keeps things simple and avoids a legal circus. You can fight about it all you want, but trust me, you'll both come out worse if you do. Niels was the first to break the silence. His shoulders sagged in defeat. Fine, but I want this done. No more surprises. Dora hesitated, then sighed. All right, I'll agree. Matt nodded, satisfied. Good. I'll draft the official agreement. You'll both sign it, and we'll move forward. A week later, the agreement was signed and sealed. Matt handled everything like a pro. Contracts, signatures, the works. Niels handed over the first payment to Dora, eager to wash his hands of this mess. He didn't even stick around for small talk. Typical. Then came the divorce hearing. It was surprisingly quick. The judge, a middle-aged woman with a sharp gaze, flipped through the paperwork, glancing between us. Well, I have to say, this is unusual. She set down the file. Most cases like this drag on for months, even years. But here we are, with both parties agreeing to a settlement. Dora forced a smile. Yes, Your Honor. We've reached an understanding. I have no claims against Elliot, and I'm unsure of the biological father of my child. I'll handle things from here. The judge raised an eyebrow, but didn't push further. All right then. If there are no further disputes, I hereby finalize the divorce. You're both free to move on with your lives. And just like that, it was over. 5 years of marriage, reduced to a few signatures and the sound of a judge's gavel. That evening, I met Matt and Eric at the same coffee shop where we'd first discussed the plan. I couldn't thank them enough for what they'd done. You really came through for me, I said, shaking Matt's hand. Honestly, I don't know how I would have survived without you guys. Matt smiled. Hey, you've got to thank Eric. He's the one who brought you to me. I turned to Eric. I owe you more than I can ever repay. Eric chuckled quietly. Don't mention it, kid. But I was curious. How did you two meet, anyway? Matt leaned back, glancing at Eric. I grew up without parents, he admitted. Eric, well, he was like a father to me. Kept me on the right path when I could have gone in the wrong direction. Everything I've accomplished, I owe to him. Eric waved him off with a grin. Oh, come on now. You've done plenty on your own. Eric continued, addressing me. But yeah, when I heard you were in trouble, I knew Matt would help. That's what family, chosen family, does. A lump formed in my throat. Well, I'm damn lucky to have met both of you. In the weeks that followed, things started to change. I got a new job, better pay, better hours. I moved into a small but decent apartment and slowly began piecing my life back together. Dora? From what I heard, she was managing on her own. Niels had paid the second installment, and the drama between them had finally settled. I didn't wish her ill, but I also didn't plan on looking back.